In 1941, Germany attacked the Soviet Union. But Germany was not alone. The allies, Romania, Hungary, Italy, and Finland, also took part of this war. While Hungary had a good enough armored divisions to ensure the defense of the country against its neighbors, the tanks were mainly light and medium tanks. As the war was raging on, the newly appearing Soviet tanks made these Hungarian tanks obsolete. They were still good enough for fighting light tanks, supporting infantry, or for reconnaissance missions, but to pick a fight with the newly appearing Soviet tanks like a T-34 or the Kiwi series, it was a hopeless mission for them. Around 1943, the Hungarian High Command had to face the reality that they need a new, heavier and more capable tank if they want to stay in a fight. First, they reached out to Germany to buy the license of some of their medium tanks. They especially were interested in the Panzerkampfwagen 4H, which was using the 75mm gun, and in the Panzerkampfwagen 5, which was the Panther. The German response was a rapid refusal. They pointed to the incomplete nature of the design, the unrealistic expectations about the Hungarian manufacturing capabilities, and generally they didn't trust Hungary that much to share these plans with them. This left Hungary no choice but to design a new tank domestically. The Weiss-Manfred factory was chosen to carry out this work. In the same year, the team of military experts from Hungary, the Hungarian Army's Institution of Research, was visiting Kummersdorf in Germany, and they got to see the Tiger and the Panther tanks. Even though they were not allowed to look inside, and this was the only time that they actually seen these tanks, it was enough for the Hungarians to use this as a base for development. And nothing proved this better than these three officers who seen these tanks. They were involved in the designing process of the new Hungarian tank. The request was that the new tank have to be able to carry a high velocity gun, it has to be strong enough armor to be able to counter the new Soviet tanks, and to be comparable with the new German tanks. This was not an easy task, especially until now. Hungary only licensed built tanks with small modifications, and they never designed a tank from the ground up. The Weiss-Manfred factory created the blueprints in record time, and it was ready around August 1943. They chose the name Tash, which was one of our tribal leader from 9th century, when the Hungarians settled in Europe. By the end of the year, the plans in details, the budget plans, and the 1 to 10 size of metal mock-up was ready and was presented to the leadership. The total weight was planned to be around 38 tons, the tank was planned to be 9.2 meters long, 3.5 meters wide and 3 meters tall. The engine was a 2 8-cylinder petrol engine providing 260 horsepower each, with a maximum speed of 45 km per hour and a maximum range of around 200 km. The crew consisted of 5 members, and the armament was planned to be an 80mm modified Bofors A gun and 1 or 2 Gebauer 8mm machine gun. This tank was classified as a heavy tank in Hungary, but if you compare it to the already existing German and Soviet tanks, it was actually a medium one. And this was due to how the Hungarian army classified it, the tank sizes. It was based on the size of the gun and not based on the weight or the size of the tank or the armor. So the Ministry of Defense accepted the proposal and instructed the Weiss-Manfred factory to go ahead with it. 2 prototypes were built, and one was armored while the other one was built from mild steel. The trucks were based on the German
Panzer
3 trucks, which was a well-built and tried system. The armor plates were between 75 and 120mm, and the welding these pieces together was a challenge for the factory, as they never had to work with this thick plating before. But this was not the only issue was slowing down the process. The originally planned converted 80mm Bofors 29/38MA guns were not available, so they had to use a different one, which was a 75mm 43M tank gun for the prototype. By the way, this was the same 75mm gun which was used in the Turan 3 and in the Zrínyi 1. As this gun already had 2 finished models, so they were hoping that the production of this gun would go more smoothly than waiting for the 80mm tank gun to be produced. Both guns, the 75mm temporary and an 80mm final one, had a depression and elevation angle range from -9 degrees to +20. The 75mm 43M tank gun was powerful enough to destroy most of the Soviet tanks and tank destroyers, but it would likely to struggle against a thick armor of the newest Soviet heavy tanks on the front, for example the IS-2. It could still penetrate the lower front plate and the sides of the IS-2 from medium or short range, but not the frontal armor. Also, as the 75mm gun would have performed well enough, I don't think later it would be replaced by the 80mm gun, as it would be only a minor improvement. When it comes to extra firepower, the Tash had a coaxial machine gun, and that's an 8mm Gebauer 1934/40 AM, and what's kind of interesting is that they also considered to having a second machine gun in the front for the radio operator. However, it's not in the pictures of the scale model, so who knows, they might be scrapped the ID, or perhaps it was a later addition to the design that wasn't on the original model. Two prototypes were built, so around June of 1944 the whole was already ready with engines and working suspensions, and only the turret was to be finished. Things took a really bad turn for the Tash project on 27th of July 1944. An Allied bombing raid hit the Manfred Weiss factory hard. The production hall where the Tash was being built collapsed, and the sample vehicle was completely destroyed in the fire. Hungary did try to get things going again at the gun's factory, but unfortunately time just wasn't on their side to even start rebuilding the prototype. Not much progress could be made before the Soviets invaded Hungary. With all the political chaos, including the German occupation, the installation of puppet of the Nazi government, the Soviet invasion, any hope of finishing the Tash project was completely lost. Would the Tash be a successful tank if ever makes into mass production? Well, maybe. As they took the battlefield experiences and copied the design of the Panther and T-34, like a sloped armor and structure, I think it would have performed very well on the battlefield. However, knowing the limited manufacturing capabilities of the Hungarian economy and industry, I don't think they ever would have been able to build enough of them to have a meaningful impact on the course of war. Thank you for joining me for another video. I hope you find it informative, and if you did, don't forget to like my video, subscribe to my channel, share this video, and see you in the next one. Bye!